טוב ומנעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבת אחים גם יחד.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
You might have noticed it's a different crew this week than usual. I'm really happy to be joined by Jody and Stu. Thank you both so much for the preparation and labor of love that you are showing by leading us so beautifully in music this evening. Welcome to all of our friends who are here on the lawn. It's very funny to see you all from this perspective because it's very clear where the shade is and where it isn't. Unfortunately, I think that's only going to last a little while longer, or maybe fortunately for those of you who are standing in the sun. Special greeting also to those who are joining us on Zoom. We hope that you can hear us and we can certainly see you. So we'll certainly say hello and appreciate your participation and presence too with our Shabbat service this evening. Wendell Berry wrote that there is a day when the road neither comes nor goes, and the way is not a way at all, but a place. And Judaism sees this day as a place in time. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel said, Shabbat comes as this grand cathedral, like the bells ringing in the distance, like the beautiful, beautiful classic New England architecture all around us. A place in time where we can find rest and respite, a chance to reconnect and to remember what is the most important in our lives. So as we do that, we sanctify the time in transition by lighting the Shabbat candles. And I'll invite Molly Babin to please come up now and help us do that. Whenever you're ready.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lechad lekneh shel Shabbat.
We'll enter into Shabbat with a few gentle songs. This first one, Yedid Nefesh, is an ancient mystical poem that asks us to imagine the closeness to God coming into our midst, like that of a loved one. Yedid Nefesh. You can just sit back and let the music wash over you and join in the refrain if you like. This one's not in your Siddur. every time we come to Shabbat, there is a traditional song that says very simply, "Here it comes. We are so excited." In Hebrew, Kiva Moed. So you can just sing Yalalai, or you can sing at the refrain of this next one, Kiva Moed, for the time has come, and we're so happy that Shabbat is finally here.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Yeah, I love how the bells are giving you a little finishing note. It's like you don't get to take credit. The bells have to finish the song. Darn it. It's funny. Okay, good. So we'll continue our service with Lecha Dodi. This is the spiritual climactic moment where we, at the last verse, will rise, if it is comfortable, from our seats, and we'll face backwards to the beautiful farmers market and everybody having a great time. And we'll say, welcome Shabbat, Bo'i Kala, Bo'i Kala. Lecha Dodi is on page 3 in your packet.
Shabbat nekabela, lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela, lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor v'dibor echad, Ishmi'anu el ha'meyuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, v'shemu tiferet v'litila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela, lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela.
Please rise and we face behind us.
Gam besimcha u'vosola, toch emunei am segula. Bo'i hala, bo'i hala. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela.
The great Martin Buber tells the story of the founder of the Hasidic movement of Judaism, the Baal Shem Tov, who informed the people at a certain synagogue that he was visiting that the synagogue was full of prayer. At first, they thought this was a compliment until he explained that prayers are not said with sincerity, with kavanah, are like lead balloons. They remain below, filling up the sanctuary, but also compressing it. After a while, all those heavy, heavy prayers fill the synagogue so much that there is no room left for any more prayers, making it impossible to pray in such a place. That's one reason that I love being outside. being outside, those balloons just float away. Think of this as a time of spiritual creativity where every prayer can be a new prayer, where if you don't like the thing you just said or that you just read or that you just thought, it can be safely away in the distance before the blink of an eye. And saferly so than, I might say, than those children's balloons at birthday parties, which I see posts about in the Guilford Facebook group all the time. So let's make this service an opportunity to let go of a balloon, let go of a different balloon. Think of a new idea that you didn't get to say last week, or an unfulfilled request that you have of God that you need to say again, that you need yourself to hear too. And let that balloon fill up and float away. We rise for Baruch Hu, the call to prayer on page 3. Let's read together at the top of page 4, the blessing for the change of time and season. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, creator of the tide of time. You guide the current of day into night, creating this moment of change in which stars flow through the heavens. We ride your wave of transformation away from work and struggle toward you and your holiness. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Together, Baruch Atah Adonai, Ma'ariv Aravim. Adonai, when you gave us Torah, you revealed your love and compassion to us. Your Torah teachings guide us toward holiness and justice. What greater gift might we receive than the Torah, the heart of our lives? It is in our love of you that we strive to be the holy people we might be. Praise to you, Adonai, who expresses love of Israel through words of Torah. Baruch Atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Please be seated. For those of you who are just arriving, when we stand, you're welcome and invited to. But if your body is telling you that's not right for now, or you're not able to, that's okay too. All prayers land in the same way, regardless of what language they're in and where your bodies are when you are doing them. We continue with Ve'ahavta on page 5. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha
בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו
הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושנתם לנך.
It's over there, darling.
Talking Mel Weinfeld.
Cool. See, he finally found out. Yeah, he finally got through to them.
No.
He did something up here, so he's coming back to the thing. There it is. Walk away. It's
Baruch atah Adonai Gaal Yisrael. Blessed are you, O God, Redeemer of the people Israel. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom. God, spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, trust. Save us. Distance us from all that would do us harm. Let Shabbat be a refuge under the canopy of your peace. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Let that peace be in our hearts, in our families, in our homes. As we sing these words together, Hashkivenu at the bottom of page 6.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Ushmot tzedkeinu u'moreinu v'chaim u'shalom mi'ata v'ad olam. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Baruch atah Adonai haporei sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. God, please protect your people here in Jerusalem and everywhere. We continue now with an encounter with our ancestors. There are a lot of world cultures that practice veneration of ancestors. Judaism stops one step away from that. Instead of praising our ancestors as deities, we think of them as examples of what to do, of how to live, and also sometimes the opposite. And so we raise up examples of our heroes who nevertheless, if you read the Torah carefully, have significant flaws and imperfections. It's one of my favorite parts about the Torah. It does not give us superheroes, it gives us real people, which just goes to show us that superheroes are in fact real people, and we can be that too if we take the lessons from our ancestors and overcome. We take a lesson from Jacob's sneaky treachery. We take a lesson from Abraham's overconfidence and inability to question when it was asked of him. We take an example from Sarah's jealousy. We take an example from the love and trust and incredible pioneering spirit of our ancestors, but also from their flaws. And through that, we hope we can find a way to living a better life ourselves. So when we rise and say these words in their merit, we inherit both their love and also their struggle. Please rise if you're able and join us at the bottom of page 7 for the Amidah.
Adonai sefata tifta ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה כל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד אתה, מחכה חיים בחסד, מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו משני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומדומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה. ונאמן אתה להיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יבלו הסלע. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
We'll take just a moment for Tefillah Balachash, for silent prayer. Feel free to use this as a time to read over some of the reflections in this booklet, or to just close your eyes and enjoy a moment of stillness and meditation as we enjoy this beautiful Madison evening. Feel free to have a seat whenever you're ready.
Say shalom, shalom b'rama, uyachaseh shalom aleinu, ve'yakov Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Say shalom, shalom b'rama, uyachaseh shalom aleinu,
although it's not obvious in such a beautiful evening when we're surrounded with people running around so joyfully and smiling faces and healthy bodies, we know that there is suffering in the midst of our community, that there are people who are not well, and that so many of us have those in our lives who are in need of healing. And so we'll offer a prayer for Misha Berach in just a moment, beginning with mentioning those known to our community. And then we'll, of course, have a moment for all of you here in person and on Zoom to share the names of any loved ones who you'd like to add to our prayers. This week, we think of the following temple members who are in need of healing: April D'Amato, Norma Diamond, Karen Flatley, Henry Gettenberg, Carol Gordon, Tom Louie, and Josh Lipschitz. And we think of all of the following loved ones: Patty Hayes, Connie Ambrosino, Stephen Verdi, Harriet Cohen Haggerty, Jay Fliss, Mickey Bart, Sydney Scher, Bart Young, Andrea Schaffner, Jonathan Kaufman, Jennifer Murphy, Helen Dreyfus, Marina Serrano, Mary Young, Ben Peck, Mark and Martha Potter, Sandy Spector, Gloria Newell, Georgia Jennings, Celeste Hawks, Sabine Meyer, Steve Wasserman, Danita Semple, Joan Sidney, David Char, Amelia Sidney, Amy Fissell, Ellsworth Matthias, Devorah Shlamit, Deborah Poulin, Samuel and Gail Feidelberg, Ira Weiss, Marielle Sheepers, and Betsy Paceras Ross. There are other names that we'd like to add for those in our community who are in need of healing. We would invite us to do so at this time. Those of you who are on Zoom, feel free to enter any names into the chat, and I will say them aloud even if you can't hear me because of the way this is set up. Please know that they will be in our prayers. And for anybody here who'd like to add a name, no, I'll do the virtual. I'm sorry, enough. Let's say the idea is to do it. Kadosh Baruch Hu, Yimalei Rachamim Aleihem. God, please heal them. Please heal us. Page 10. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Last weekend, Susan and I were driving around the Connecticut countryside a little bit, and we passed a beautiful white church, not so different from this one, and a sign outside of the congregation listed the name of the senior pastor and his sermon for the week, and it said, Collective Effervescence. That's a mouthful for a billboard outside a church. But Susan and I turned to one another and gave each other a meaningful look because we said, wow, he must have read the same op-ed that we just read. The article that we meant was written by Dr. Adam Grant, who is an industrial organizational psychologist. He teaches at the Wharton School, and he publishes all these interesting articles about what we're going through during the pandemic. And his article recently published is called "There's a Specific Kind of Joy We've Been Missing." The idea is that the pandemic has robbed us of a special sort of collective joie de vivre when people gather in large groups to share not only emotionally resonant experiences, but the emotions themselves. It's the idea of an emotional contagion. Now that sounds kind of viral, God forbid, but the idea is that we actually communicate the emotions to one another too. And already you're thinking about this and probably realizing there's some truth to it, right? This sense of unity is what he calls collective effervescence, which is a term that he didn't coin, but rather comes from the eminent sociologist Emil Durkheim, who coined this term in the early 20th century. Grant writes, "Collective effervescence is the synchrony you feel when you slide into rhythm with strangers on the dance floor, colleagues in a brainstorming session, cousins at a religious service, or teammates on a soccer field. And during this pandemic, it has been largely absent from our lives." Apologies to all of our friends on Zoom. We all know that it is a wonderful tool, but it is an imperfect tool. And I believe that one of the reasons for that is that it provides only a facsimile of this collective effervescence, this shared emotional experience. The delayed social cues, the awkward technological gaffes, which I think I've already done a couple tonight, so Haida, please forgive me. All of this leads us to walk around day by day as Dr. Grant calls it, zombies. Hence our eagerness to reconvene for TBT services in person. And this is the first one we could do outside since I've started. So there's something to celebrate in that for sure. When was your first taste of collective effervescence? Think back. Can you think about what I'm talking about? For me, it was when I was 8 years old, at least as far as I remember. It was my first Shabbat evening at summer camp, and our counselors brought us into a very small hall that did not have enough room for the entire rest of the camp. But that said, everybody went in the same space, shoulder to shoulder, perhaps 500 people or more in a space that could comfortably sit about 200 or 300. We all sat on the floor, and the song leaders from every unit came into the center of the room while we were sitting around them, almost like a giant donut in shape. This was before of course, I knew about Durkheim or collective effervescence. I just knew what it felt to be part of a beautiful roar of energy, the shivers running up my spine as hundreds of us sang songs and clapped our hands and danced along and heard beautiful Jewish stories shared. I'm not the only one that holds this memory dear. Early in the pandemic, when it became clear that my summer camp, where I grew up in Wisconsin, would not convene in person for the first summer in over 60 years, hundreds of staff, campers, parents, and alumni gathered for a Zoom Shabbat Shiras, Shabbat singing. It was special and connective, and I was even invited to lead a song, which was very fun for me to come back as an alumnus. There was a certain sadness to it. It offered the taste of that effervescence that we all so deeply missed in the past year, but it felt more like a simulation, less like reality, more like virtual reality. Human beings need real face-to-face connection, not only on an individual psychological level, though we do, but as a society. What do I mean? Well, Durkheim's insights about the connection between religion and society and the health of people totally revolutionized the social sciences and created a new discipline. I said he was an eminent sociologist. He really created the discipline of sociology. And here's what Dr. Grant didn't mention in that op-ed, although I encourage you to read it. He didn't mention that for Durkheim, religion wasn't somehow secondary to the religious experience. It wasn't one on a list of things that we might do in order to feel valued and connected. It was the very center of social human experience. Durkheim noticed that religions come into being through movements of this shared emotional connection called collective effervescence. It especially comes out when people gather to perform a religious ritual. During these moments, the group shares certain common stories or thoughts, right? The Exodus, the Torah, and we come to participate in the same actions. We light the candles, drink the wine, have a bite of challah, say these prayers. And during these moments, the group feels unified. at its peak, a certain electricity can course through the room. And when it works, that electricity helps us feel connected to something beyond ourselves. We feel uplifted in a connection with an extraordinary energy. Now, if you don't feel that way right now, I forgive you, and I don't take it personally, because it's really hard to get there and it requires practice. That's why in Judaism, there are 3 prayer services during the day. It's a muscle to build. It's not something that you can just tap into and expect to experience instantly. No, there is no app for that, so stop looking. It requires hard work, kind of like what I was saying before, but it is amazing when it works. So that's step 1. Step 2 is Durkheim taught that religious people project their collective effervescence onto a shared symbol. Can you think of a shared symbol in a Jewish service that's very exciting for us as Jewish people? How about the Torah? I know we haven't done this in a while, but how about standing up in front of an ark and taking out the Torah and parading it around, and that lovely little break where you smile and schmooze and it's a nice moment during the high holidays, right? So for us, maybe it's the Torah, or we could say it's God. Or for others, it might be a musical superstar or a football team. In any case, whatever it is becomes a revered point of connection and common storytelling. People either love or sometimes revile that symbol, but either way, it becomes a central feature in consonance or opposition to identity formation. Physical items such as crosses, ballparks, and Torah scrolls, yes, as well as abstract ideas, like I was saying before about ancestors, values, and God, can become infused with this sense of the sacred, something that is really elevated and special in an awe-inspiring way. Okay, so that's step 2. Here is the last step, and this one is the most mind-bending of all. And if you don't quite agree with it or understand it, it's okay, because I'm still trying to figure it out too. This is where Durkheim went from being merely a thinker to one of the smartest thinkers about religion who has ever lived. Here's what he said. Durkheim noticed that the veneration of certain sacred symbols actually is about what society does for itself. He theorized that a given society's sacred object is nothing but the collective, connective forces of the group, sublimated into something that can be named. In other words, religion is society worshiping itself. And through religion, individuals represent to each other their relationship to society and to one another. Oh, perhaps you're having a very strong reaction to this. Perhaps you think that Durkheim did total disservice to the awe of the religious experience, or maybe it makes a lot of sense to you. And, this whole religion thing, it's kind of in our minds anyway, Rabbi. So isn't this just a very honest way of speaking about the real lived human experience of religion, and less about what we can objectively measure, like God or values or history? But regardless of what you think of his idea, the idea is interesting. At the very least, we can agree about that, I hope. And one of the interesting things about his idea for me is that, according to Durkheim, God is objectively real. Nobody can disprove that this force exists, because without God, either with a big G or in societies that have many gods or that have ancestor veneration or other rituals, without any of that, according to Durkheim, there would be no society at all as we presently experience it. And again, it all starts with proximity and presence, a zap of electricity between us and among us, shared values, and a common sense of purpose. That is why being zombies is bad for more than just our mental health. It's bad for our societal health. Adam Grant concludes that our country, now as it is, might come back to that sort of communitarian strength that has so nourished us as a society in the past, yet is at odds with the increasingly lonely individualistic trends of recent decades. He calls in that article for a new declaration of interdependence. I really like that. There's a conflict in the American DNA. At our peak, the spirit of democracy comes alive with the greatest strength in a flourishing community like ours. A civic life. It's based upon doing things together, being together, creating together, worshiping together, loving each other, tolerating each other, putting up with each other so that we can love each other. That's what it takes to build a community. We all know this. The town green, the marketplace, the farmer's market, the VFW, the Rotary, our beautiful congregation, which, as all of you know, is more than just four walls. Yet, American society has been marked by a trend away from the communitarian, away from civic and religious involvement. The modern sociologist Robert Putnam famously described this phenomenon about 20 years ago in a book that some of you might have read, a book called Bowling Alone. Do you remember that one? Where he talked about the increasing trend away from group bowling leagues and more toward people showing up to just go bowling alone. Grant, in his op-ed, demonstrates what many of us know intuitively, which is that even introverts need to feel connected to the collective in order to be healthy. He cites psychological studies that show that in cultures where people pursue happiness individually, they actually become lonelier. But in cultures where they pursue happiness socially, through connecting, caring, and contributing, people appear to be more likely to gain well-being. Now, there was a lot of joking at the beginning of the pandemic and throughout that it was sort of an introvert's dream to be at home and do nothing other than experience people from a safe distance. And I think the people who say that don't really understand introverts, because to be introverted is, I'll speak personally, is to primarily get energy from recharging, but it doesn't diminish the need for social engagement. It just changes the way that it happens. So one of the interesting takeaways for me is that in a lot of ways, introverts were more harmed in the past year than extroverts when it comes to their mental health. Where does this leave all of us? I think I'm kind of preaching to the choir when it comes to the need for us to be together. When we come together, we have a uniquely Jewish entry point to nourish our spirits and our psyches. Of course, there are all kinds of ways we can feel nourished socially, and many of us are engaged in those things. But so long as we care not only to be Jewish in some abstract way, but to do Jewish, so long as we show up and come to services, holidays, we celebrate Jewish milestones, so long as we can build places where people will want to gather and, yes, collectively effervesce around a shared identity, the work of Judaism will never end. And no matter what the future of technology will bring, no matter that it will allow us to do things alone, to bowl alone or pray alone, more efficiently and instantly and easily and even more convincingly when we're on Zoom than ever before, it will never replace the truth that we need to be together. We need to be face to face. We need to interact with one another and share what we value. That's what we sang at the beginning of the service. Remember? Hine ma tov u'ma na'im shevet achim v'achayot gam yachad. How good and perfect and beautiful it is in this messy life when we gather together in person. How pleasant when we can gather as brothers, sisters, and friends to de-stress, decompress, reflect, and effervesce together. Shabbat shalom.
Adonai Eloheinu,
Begin the conclusion of our service now on page 11. If it's comfortable, please rise with us for Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח על אדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר ראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל עמונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. היום היו, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. Everyone can have a seat. I think Susie's around here somewhere. Absolutely. Susie Frisch will now greet us and share some announcements. In the wing.
Shabbat Shalom. For those who don't know me, my name is Susie Frisch, and I am currently the treasurer on the board of directors of Temple Beth Tikvah. A warm welcome to everyone who's here tonight, but especially to the guests who have joined us for this service. Special thanks to Stu and Jody for joining Rabbi Moss on the Bima, gracing our service with their beautiful music while Cantor Boyle is away on her honeymoon. A year late, but it's her honeymoon. Tomorrow, please join us for Torah study at 9 a.m. on Zoom, led by Rabbi Moss. The Zoom link is in your email from today. Rabbi Moss has scheduled time to meet with every member of the congregation who would like to get a chance to meet him personally. Space is still available for his in-person meet and greets. Please check your weekly shofar blast for the sign-up information. And the online ones as well. The link to sign up for both the in-person and online meetings is also available on the homepage of the website. Next Friday, July 30th, Shabbat services will once again be here on the Madison Green in front of the First Congregational Church at 6 p.m. We plan to gather here for most of the weeks of the rest of the summer, but please mark your calendars for Friday, August 13th, when we hope to meet at East Wharf Beach for our Shabbat services. And finally, I'd like to let everyone know that you should look in your email. You should have received information about our high holidays last week. We sent out a abbreviated form announcing the dates, times, and locations for the major services of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. More detailed information will be following in the next couple of weeks. And once again, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thanks,
Shabbat
Susie.
Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbos.
Shabbos.
After our service today, we will have a delicious oneg, which is something that Gary has been working on for a long time. And we're sorry that it's been so delayed, but very happy to be able to gather together and safely share some delicious food and drink. So please avail yourselves if you're interested over here after the service, after we make Kiddush. We will conclude our service with the Mourner's Kaddish, honoring anyone who is here to say Kaddish for a loved one, for anybody who's passed away recently or at this season in time past. They're certainly on our minds and in our hearts as we offer this prayer. We think first of those in the period of Shloshim who have had a loss in the last 30 days, including Ruth Loeb Forrest, mother of Susan Forrest, and Lillian Katenik, mother of Stephen Katenik. Are there others in the congregation who are in the period of Shloshim? We invite you, if you're comfortable, to please rise as the name of your loved one is read for your sight. We think tonight of Stuart Kindman, Estelle Goldstein, Stan Josephson, Hannah Lee, Merritt Rudner, Arlene Alpert, Harry Bernblum, William Kelly, Zale Koff, Muriel Milstein, Herta Tenenbaum, Charles Ahrens, and Diane Johnson. I invite you also to share the names of any of your loved ones who you're remembering tonight, either in the chat if you are joining us on Zoom, or here in person if you wish. We invite the rest of the community to please rise in fellowship if it is comfortable as we support one another through these sacred words. Mourner's Kaddish, page 12. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, ve'alma divrach v'reutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agalau v'zman kariv v'yimru amen. Yehi shemei rabbah mevorach le'elam le'omei maya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitale v'yithalal shemei dekudesha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabbah mishmaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'romav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who causes peace to reign in our world also bring peace to the hearts of all who mourn tonight. As together we say, Amen.
Oseh shalom b'romav, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen.
That was quite a trick.
He's filled with lots of chicks.
I don't know about you, but I can't get enough of these two. It's such a special treat to be joined by your music. What beautiful resources we have in our congregation. Everyone's invited to please have a seat. We'll sing a song, make kiddush, and then hang out a little bit. All right. So our closing song tonight, Oseh Shalom by Friedman, right?
The third version.
The third version. What's the third version?
Well, just, but we've done it like, they're different. I mean, the Friedman version.
The Friedman
Yes,
version.
the Friedman.
Did you know she actually has another verse? She actually has a posthumous verse.
Oh, I did
Yeah.
not know that.
Yeah.
Ah.
I'll sing it. You'll hear it. You'll like it.
Okay.
Okay. All right. This is an oldie and a goodie. Let's sing it together. Maestro?
Oh, I'm sorry. Do it again, Maria. I didn't hear you. I'm sorry. Oseh shalom b'romav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Oseh
שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו אמן.
All right, does everybody have some wine, grape juice? It's grape juice. We didn't break the rules. Where's Wally? All right. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. That's it. That's what we do.
Well, you could do longer.
Maybe next time.
Take the lead.
Maybe next time.
Oh, sure. You wanna join us? Beautiful house, Susie.
Thank you, Susie.
Thank you, Susie.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lehem min haaretz. Amen.
Okay, should we do one more chorus of Oseh Shalom?
Oh, sure.
As we get this party started?
Okay.
Hold on. She has to finish chewing. So do I. Okay. That is very good challah. Okay. I just want to acknowledge that doing this takes a lot of work and a lot of hands. I know it wasn't completely seamless tonight. I don't think it will ever be completely seamless because there's a lot of things that can go wrong when we have all these different circuits and people and wind and all this. But I just want to say how much went right because of so many people, including not only Jody and Sue, but Kim, who is here to set up and help with all the sound and tech tonight. Thank you. And to Haida, who's been managing the tech from the other end of Zoom. And to Gary and Paul, thank you so much for being here. To Wally, who graciously helps us navigate the space and use it in a very gracious way. So thanks
And
to all of
schleps a
them.
lot.
And yeah,
And
exactly.
schleps a lot.
And to all of you for being here and praying with us. What a lovely group of people. So we'll look forward to greeting you after this last chorus.
Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol
Yisrael ve'imru amen. Oseh shalom imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen.
Be blessed in going just as you were blessed in coming. But before you go, grab something to eat or drink and say hello. Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.